Good morning, everyone. Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Jason Schwartz. We're now in June. Well, aloha. It's June 3rd, 2024.
Yes,
You
sir.
remember Y2K? That was 24 years ago when we thought the world was going to explode computer-wise and our world would be different than we know it.
There's always a crisis.
You know what I saw yesterday, which was intriguing? A little article that showed engineers talking about how a building would drop the World Trade Centers, and there is no way that it could have dropped the way it did unless there were charges set in the building.
I don't question that because that's how they drop buildings when they do that. Like you watch them in Vegas all the time. They perfectly go down.
Yeah.
And I've heard engineers say actually the exact opposite, that if something happens engineers don't agree. It's like anything else. It's designed to pancake down,
And they talked about the strength of the building, with the way it was built, was 4 times the strength of any other building. And they have so many things that are going on that show. So I'm living in a world now where I don't know what the news is. I don't know what to trust, who to trust. Maybe no one. I got an article sent to me overnight that Maui's going to lose $1.7 billion when the vacation rental, no more vacation rentals in certain areas bill goes through. All I know is that at the low end of the curve, or let's call it the 99%, or I don't know what percentage go, people that don't have any money saved, people that don't have any other money except sources from the government.
Right. Well, you know what? It's been a long tradition. Not really a tradition, if it's a tradition or it's a snafu, that people would get these credit card companies that would say, here's $5,000, zero interest for 18 months. Oh, shoot, let's go to the islands. Let's take a vacation. That's gone away. So people they're not taking that risk of, I'm going to make more money. I know exactly what my budget is at home, what I have to spend for the kids and for everything. And they're not getting those incentives from credit card companies. And actually now, more Americans are on the edge of default than ever in the history of credit cards.
Well, I'm not surprised by that. Are you?
No, not at all.
There are more people. So when there are more people, there's more default.
The percentage of people that are on the edge, yes.
Well, I got to admit, I'm living on that edge.
As a country, we are. Just in the last 2 weeks, our national debt that we pay out, we pay more in interest on our debt now than go to any other programs all combined. We reached that tipping point.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So as the individual families go, our country is gone. We've reached that. We're just servicing the debt. And we can't sell the debt because then it'll come in at higher interest rates. During the Clinton administration, he balanced the budget by restructuring the debt. He sold it on short-term notes, 5-10-year notes at a low interest rate. And then along comes the Bush administration, and all of a sudden we're like, we can't resell that debt at that same interest rate, and now it just keeps compounding. And now we were on a slide during the Obama years. It was going up fractionally, and now here we are in the Biden tenure, or his 4 years as president, and we can't sell our debt at a lower interest rate. So we're having to sell it at a higher interest rate, just like everyone's getting higher interest on their credit cards. We are as a country, and it's what Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed, in Khrushchev, and they had all their debt hanging out, and all of a sudden their service on their debt was just compounding and compounding because they kept spending to try to keep up with the Cold War. And they kept annexing countries and annexing countries and annexing countries back into the fold, and they collapsed. We're following that same pattern as a country.
And then what?
Well, what interested me at the onset of the Ukraine war. And when we made these crazy financial bounds that we put on Putin and put on Russia and blocked their banks, we blocked banking, we blocked the sale of this, we impounded yachts that were flagged. Yeah.
Why was that crazy?
Well, we basically said that we don't care about your money. And over history, that's the only thing that's ever proven, these sanctions have ever proven to hurt are the poor and the working people in that country. We've never affected the outcome of a country by those sanctions. Oh. It's the same Cuba. It's a failed plan. And shortly, about 6-8 months into that, Vladimir Putin put the ruble back on the gold standard. And when he did that, I realized that they're not backing down. They're doubling down on this.
Well, we've talked about that, about the gold standard a lot.
Oh, yes. It insulates.
1972?
1972, Richard Nixon.
Go down in infamy.
Well, they also created the World Bank, so to speak, or the Fed. And that Fed, all of a sudden, it was like giving the government a printing machine to print as much money as you want.
And here we are now.
Here we are now where they can digitally print money that just goes along in space. And now it finally caught up with us. We've hit that tipping point where, okay, what are we going to do? We can't sell the debt. The dollar is still good, but now China and Russia are selling oil between themselves, and India and Russia, they're all selling things and they're not using the dollar. Is that a big deal? Well, when you think about it, yes, because every time a dollar is exchanged anywhere in the world, we get a piece of that somehow. Honestly, it would take an economics professor to explain that. But when we're not trading in the dollar, we're losing status as a country and as an economy, the world economy. So we're in an interesting time.
Well, and I don't know how steep the precipice for quality of life, but I think we got to be pretty sharp, because once we hit a tipping point, we basically can stop having any growth. Isn't that basically
right? And that's where we're at today.
So how do we handle problems? How do we handle issues like this local issue? We've heard it many times. We can't build our way out of this problem.
No. It goes back. I remember Ronald Reagan.
I remember him too.
Yeah. He's a brilliant orator. But he was talking about when he went to meet with the heads of all of the organizations. Met with not the World Bank, but he met with head of the IRS. He met with all these great heads of all of our bureaucracies. And then the takeaway that came back to him after that, because one of his staffers was left in the meeting after he left, was they consider our politicians today like they're on summer break. So whoever gets elected, they're the power, and the elected officials are just there for a short time. So they're really not answering to the officials. When Carter wanted to, Carter wanted to do a lot of different things, but Carter wanted to back off of our things that are going on in Iran during Iran-Contra and all that hostage negotiations and stuff. And he went to the the Joint Chiefs and said, "I want to do this." And the Joint Chief says, "No, you don't want to stir a hornet's nest. You don't want to go into there. It's horrible terrain. We can't do it." And Carter said, "Do it." And they were like, "Well, okay." So they halfway did it. We lost a bunch of helicopters. We lost soldiers. We did get some people out, but who's running the country, really? If you can't build a house in Maui, you don't go to a politician. The Lahaina people don't go to a politician. They go to the Department of Planning. They go to the Department of Water. They go to all these different departments that are controlling how to build a house, where you can build it, how it's being built. No elected official has control. That doesn't have control of that anymore. You can't go to our mayor. I like mayor. I really like the guy. I honestly, straight up. And you can't go to him and say, "I really want to build a house. Why is this in the way?" Because we built this infrastructure of checks and balances, and the people running those, they're not elected, but they have godlike power. They have the power to fine. They have the power to say you can't build. They have this power, that power, and that power. Our elected officials are becoming neutered, so to speak, to do anything.
Well, unless laws are changing the way those decisions have to be made in those departments.
Yeah. But who wants to, if you've got that power in that department, who gives that up? Power is an aphrodisiac. It's a dangerous thing.
Well, the thing that's missing from all of this is, in my mind, that we need enough of movement of money, whatever that trading commodity is, to build what we need. And we also need the people in the world to start cooperating toward making smart decisions on choices they make. Because, a trip to Maui, the interest rate's down. That's luxury stuff. But the stuff that we're talking about building houses and talk locally. Where are the people that are living here? I'm here 30 years, right? Or more. 36 years. I'm getting older.
Every day.
But, I heard a couple of Hawaiians, one gal who was running for office, moaning on the internet that she's not going to be able to leave a house, a family house, for the people that follow after her. Hawaiian, doesn't have money, and where we have multiple generations living in one house.
We have multiple generational people in our correctional system who are so angry, and then they end up getting in the system because they were so angry trying to deal with the bureaucracy when they just wanted to rebuild their home.
So what do they do when they get out? They start...
I have to watch my HIPAA on this one, but yeah, they're very frustrated. They're realizing that
means he has to be not disclosing things personally.
Right. And especially...
By the way, I didn't introduce. This is my co-host, Scott Bushnell.
Da-da-da.
Every so often we bring him in from the world. He comes up with things that are happening in the world. Scott, you've been just full of information.
Oh, I've been told I've been full of it for years.
You've been full of it. So I'm changing the subject on you, I think. What do we do with these problems that don't go away and no money, and we have control in a department? They can't just snap their fingers and change their rules, right?
They do. They make their own rules. And it really came obvious to me, and this is something that I brought to you about the EP, about how they were handling the waste in Lahaina. Yeah. Okay, this came up. I came to you. I was heated because I was going, they're not doing this right.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, we got to talk to the mayor. We got to talk to this. And then I researched and I went, they're hogtied by the EPA because they're either following the EPA guidelines. It's not up to Mayor Bisson. It's not up to it's not up to Josh Green. Their hands are tied. They're doing it exactly as they're told by the EPA. The EPA created these things without due governance. They created their rules and laws on their own with their committee. Right. They were given a kind of a carte blanche when they were first created, which I agree with most things with the EPA. But I think they need to be able to do it as Eisenhower said, everything is local. Roosevelt said that all politics are local.
Which Roosevelt?
The second Roosevelt said everything is local. To get in the arena, what's good for this part of the country maybe not be good for this part of the country.
That's the problem.
And this, honestly, this goes across Department of Education. They have failed every year since they've been in existence because they made a single block. This is how we're going to teach our kids. We're going to do it all the way from Florida to Alaska. Everything's going to follow this, this, and this. And they took away they didn't take away. They had good meaning. I know they had good meaning, but what they have done is they took away the creativity and the power of teachers and staff and principals, and said, check the boxes, send them in, and created a whole new layer of bureaucracy over education just to give them money so that they could pay their teachers.
Well, you brought that up in numbers of departments that
all across there.
Layers of bureaucracy have
layers
been set
upon
up
layers
because of the sources of money that they seek,
right,
need to seek to keep these programs going. Again, is it all tied back to us going off a standard?
We for the good of the country, everybody's, we've got to make all the standards. George Bush had this No Child Left Behind, but a child left behind in Texas is not a child left behind in the Bronx. They tried to make everything fit for everyone, and what they did is they took away teachers' love. And if you're a teacher, and I've taught and I kind of teach, you have ownership. If you have a curriculum and you own it and the kids are buying into it and they're learning, it's amazing. But when somebody hands you something and say, teach to this is the test, and after a few years or even 10 years, teachers are like, oh God, I don't even want to teach anymore, because all I'm doing is taking it from one hand and spewing it out and hoping the kids get the right answer. They're not showing the value. They're not selling it. They're not packaging it. So kids in Hawaii are different than kids in Alaska, are different than the kids in Florida. You've got to take in the vernacular of the people around you. You can't cookie cutter education, nor can you cookie cutter environmental protection. Yes, there are some baseline standards. We just don't throw motor oil in the ocean. No, yeah, we can all agree on many things. But Maui is unique. It's not like the middle of Oklahoma for taking care of things, but yet we're following the EPA guidelines that were set down for an entire country.
Well, so, is there no override switch? Who has the power to do
I look for that, Jason. I did that. And
couldn't a Joe Biden or whoever's president?
Joe Biden? I don't know. I don't see that. I see these bureaucracies have grown out of control because, as I said earlier, the heads of these bureaucracies see elected officials as just people that are on summer break and are there for a few years and gone. So they're not really making an impact. I think term limits would be good. I think we need to flush the system there. But did you know that when way off track, Abraham Lincoln comes in, he's voted into office. He eliminated 35% of all of the leaders of all of the agencies in the United States government.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Where do you find this kind of information?
Jason, my head's just sucking it all in all the time.
35% of the administration?
Administration. He changed leadership across the board. And when asked... And then when you ask him, he was asked, or they talked about that, it said the presidency was more about making sure that the people that you're governing over are taking the values of the person you elected to do that. There's going to have to be a lot of change.
Well, we've heard let's now jump 100 change years to the present. So, we have a thing going on now in our country that is, I don't have to tell anybody. Everybody, every time I open up the news, the headline says, Trump hush money trial. Trump uses job. Gag orders.
Yeah.
All kinds of...
How you can break somebody's civil rights. Try somebody in a city court for a federal election trial. They broke every single rule on the book.
Wait. I don't even know what that means. A federal election trial?
Excuse me.
Not there in New York. You're talking about...
I'm talking about with the New York, and this is another... Let's really reel this back.
Okay.
Back during Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws. There was a bunch of them.
Now, this was when?
This is back
right
40s, 50s, 40s up into the 40s and 50s. Most of these were still on the books.
Is that right?
Just until
1940s and 50s.
Right. 2020.
Give us a simple definition of a Jim Crow law.
Jason, I know you did something wrong, and I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to tell all these people are going to talk here in front of court. I'm going to send them back, and they're going to decide what you did wrong. I don't know what for sure you did wrong because we've been listening to everybody. They go back, they deliberate with the information they were given, and then they pick what they want to say you're guilty of. But you don't give them written hand. They're not carrying back the jury instructions. They're not seeing the line item of what these laws are and how they apply.
So, in that case, the question comes to me is, if they were doing everything right until then, and then they would do something like this, you wonder, is there someone controlling that step? How did that happen? How could that happen when everyone was so aware of it? How could that happen?
Well, Clinton paid out $800,000 to
Monica.
No, and that other lady too. Yeah.
I don't remember the name.
Flowers.
Jennifer Flowers.
Yeah. The Senate and the House pay out averagely over $20 million in hush money every friggin' fiscal year.
That's an interesting statistic.
No, it's not a statistic. That's on the books.
How can they know who's paying out hush money?
Because they have a department in the Senate and the House that handles within each of their parties negative press. So if they have somebody that they have some dirt on, but yet they have a senator or representative that's really working towards what they want to believe in, they funnel money through. Let's say you had 50 parking tickets. Let's say you did something stupid when you're in high school or whatever, college. And it's not like, a convictable crime, but it just kind of muddies the water. So being a politician would be so horrible. I know so many of them personally. They're retired now. But if somebody comes to you, I'm going to come to Jason. I'm coming to you. I said, you know what? I remember what you did in Lahaina over at the Hyatt with that group of girls back in 1983. You know what? This is what I really want to get passed to make sure that this legislation goes through, because it's going to work for me.
So either I tell it or you do what I want.
Yeah. So to save their embarrassment, they're gaining leeway. So you have to go in either squeaky clean or have a Teflon coat to actually go where you want. Kelsey Gabbard, who I absolutely adore, when I was going through things when I moved back home, I contacted her. She called me back personally. We handled stuff together. She kind of pushed through some stuff that I was going through with my health insurance. And she just told me, it's just like the system is so built. It's not government anymore. It's the system.
Well, are we just going to live with it till it breaks and then have war? What are we going to do?
I don't see war because here's another weird statistic.
You don't see war? Locally here we see war.
Because it sells soap for the media. It sells soap for the masses.
What?
So if you put on your TV show, the third or the Second World War is coming, or the second Civil War is coming, people are gonna watch your show. Put that as the title, people will tune in. What happens when those Nelson numbers come back? The cost per advertising goes through the roof. It sells. Trump sells. Anything he does, the mass media highlights that and takes one piece of something and just blows it up in the air so that they can sell more ad time and make high dollars on it. Why does the Super Bowl get, $50 million a minute? Because people are watching. And if people don't want to watch, if you look on the internet and you click through and you see people, those great headlines just grab you and they pull you in, and if more people click on it, then all of a sudden you start making money. So the truth has been lost.
Yeah, I remember looking a piece of ice on a hamburger, and it says, "Hey, Do you know you should put ice on a piece of hamburger when you're grilling? Click here. And then you get there and they're like, hey, here's 150 things you can buy. And then about number 138 is, here's that hamburger we spoke to you about. Oh, by the way, here's the grilling tools. I'm so sick of it. Or you try to look for a job on the net. Or they talk about ways you can use AI to get income. You can make $5,000 a month.
A minute.
You can make $5,000 a day.
Yeah.
And then, here's how. And do these, get this.
Buy this. It's snake oil. It's all snake oil.
Well, it's getting
most of it is
absurd. And then the local jobs, you know, hey, we got $15 an hour. Oh, that's coming in a few years when the minimum wage is raised. So we're not at 15, but we're going to offer you 15. So we're paying more. Wait a minute. Go to McDonald's. Have you seen McDonald's recently?
I don't eat there. But,
well, again, but I'm only bringing it up because they used to be crowded. And now it's like a ghost town when you drive by.
Oh, yeah.
When you see 6 cars and you realize those are the 6 people that work there.
We went to Taco Bell the other day just because we were both really exhausted. We went through the drive-thru, and it was like $20. And I go, you know, when the kids were young, $5 we could get enough food to feed the whole family. And that was like 25 years ago, given.
Yeah.
But really? Yeah.
Well, that's what they talk about inflation. Well, the inflation has caused that. Well, they sure aren't moving wages up, and even if they were, they're based on money that isn't real.
Raising wages just shoots you in the foot.
And now there's a new mortgage. Did you see the 100%? A first mortgage is 97, and then there's a 3% additional second mortgage they take out to people that are making large incomes but have no money for their down payments at all.
You know,
that's going to cause another Gabumo crisis.
Yeah. So what we were talking about, Jason and I talked the other day. We walk in the water at the pool. You can join us if you like. But I've had this bug ever since I was very young. I researched geothermal electricity back when I was like a grade schooler. I did a science project on it. It always fascinated me. And so Jason and I were talking the other day. I said, I'm going to really look into that deeper and see why we're not. Iceland's doing some amazing things. Hawaii is considered a hotbed that could use geothermal power.
30 years ago, I remember when I was at the Integrated Resource Planning Advisory Board for Maui Electric, they had presentations about all the different technologies. Right. And at that time, the big thing about geothermal was that it's going to change the conditions on the surface.
No.
And heat up the water and destroy the reef. So maybe
that's their go-to.
Better.
That's the oil company's go-to.
Well, whatever it is, here we are 30 years later. They're still using it on the Big Island, right? Big Island,
they're Iceland. They have a geothermal. I used to live close to a geothermal plant when I lived in New Mexico up in the Jemez Mountains. Los Alamos National Laboratory.
Yeah.
Up on the Valdez Caldera, which used to be this huge mountain that blew up. They said killed the dinosaurs. We still don't know. But it's a volcanic area. It's a lot of heat underground. They put in a geothermal plant. And they've been doing research up there now for 75 years. We still need to research that. But this is something I did not know, but I'm so glad I started researching this. Geothermal home systems. Here in Hawaii, anywhere in the south, anywhere where we're in a warm climate, you can, when you build your home, you put in these conduction rods down. You go down an extra 10 feet or so below your foundation. Put these tubes in that run through your heat exchange system. You can basically cool your home for pennies. Because geothermal works by going and creating electricity. You can run tubes on your roof and have hot water. I did not even know, and this is not new, that you can run tubes down in the ground 10 feet and you're going to drop 30 degrees in temperature. You can cool your home. We could cut the need for electricity, because I think what I read on the Hawaiian Electric website is that they estimate that almost 20% of electricity on island is for air conditioning? Cooling.
Great need.
Huge, because the hotels, open doors, open airways, all air conditioned.
And I came here, you don't want to know from it, in 1988.
Yeah.
with the ideas of also using a system that was cogeneration.
Yeah.
To, using the sun to heat a fluid and then go through the heat exchange process.
Yeah, they've been using it. Yeah, swimming pools have been using it forever.
We've had solutions that don't make it out here. I get it.
That greasy oil fingers don't like those, and they do research, and then they flood everywhere that you're trying to read about something or learn about something with research that is funded somewhere on the last line in very small print by Exxon or by, one of the big oil companies or one of their subsidiaries, one of the uplinks, BlackRock, somebody like that.
Well,
the options are there.
Let's go to a much more down-to-earth, funny. You want to hear funny? When he told me this one, I was like, food stamps and the cost of delivery. That one is worth really pursuing. And some of you here locally in Maui ought to dig in with the tools that you have to dig in.
I actually did my research on that, and I made some screenshots so I knew where the budget lines were.
Listen to this one. This one blows my mind.
So the U.S. budget, U.S. Department of Agriculture budget for food stamps is $140 billion. Big. The amount they pay out, $6 billion.
$6 billion out of $140 billion.
Yeah. So it costs $140 billion to get $6 billion to the people.
That's because of the administration of that.
Yeah,
Who's selling that?
This is the U.S. I really, this was horrible reading. The U.S. I read it went into the USDA.gov.
Oh, this is right from them.
That's from them.
Wow.
And I started reading, and I was like, oh my goodness, what does the Department of Nutrition and Assistance have to do with these weird there's a million things they're doing that make no sense to me. I get it. You help the farmers. That's what the Department of Ag is all about. Department of Agriculture, who funds the SNAP program.
And then we hear that most of that help goes to feeding animals.
Or it goes to other countries to develop resources.
Through the USDA?
Yeah. This money goes more places outside the country than stays in.
Well, I don't know what to say. Those countries need some resources too.
They do,
and we try to be the benevolent.
But we're paying them out. We're having to print money to pay them because we've reached that tipping point.
Well, and then people here are complaining because they're not getting the same kind of help that we're giving to foreign countries.
Yeah.
And then we look back and we say, "Though this money is all made up anyway. Why don't we create some more and help ourselves as well?"
Right.
It's a mad cluster.
Yes.
Things we can't say.
Yeah, we don't
it's
say that.
It's a cluster.
Word. It is. But I think the people on the very top, they're making money out of keeping us confused. I remember studying the Trilateral Commission in college. That was this strange entity that oversaw all the things in the world. And then when George Bush Sr. got into office and started talking about the New World Order, and I was like, New World Order, Trilateral Commission. Okay, there's a correlation here. And I started reading more, and I was like, the people with a lot of money, they lose their money if we go to war, as if we have a civil war. So the people that are making these millions of dollars off the poor and the middle class in this country, they can only, if they manipulate you to a breaking point, which I think we saw with New York in a city trial over a federal election violation. We saw the outreach and millions of dollars going to President Trump. We realized that the country is fed up, obviously.
Well, obviously the day after the decision on the Trump trial, zillions of dollars were raised by
I couldn't believe that they sent the jury back with Jim Crow kind of directions. Hey, go find him guilty of something. You don't have to all agree.
No, that's not exactly the words they used, I'm sure.
No, they didn't. He spoke for 3.5 hours reading the jury instructions, but then didn't give him a copy.
That's just the craziest thing.
Yeah, if you've ever done jury duty, they usually hand you, this is the statute, this is what the law was broken, and go figure it out.
Well,
so I think...
I always like to come to the point where we get completely confused. So what do we do now?
I think, remember what Warren Buffett said, everybody's just going to be happy if they have a place to live and they should just shut up and fall in line? That was about 20 years ago.
Well, they don't have a place to live. And
not everyone. No.
No, they don't.
They don't.
I think it's much worse in Maui than is being reported to us.
Oh, absolutely. How do you go from living a family, multi-generational home in Lahaina, maybe to living with some family, and then expected to go live in a tent or a box?
Or no tent or no box, because we don't have enough tents and boxes.
Yeah. Luckily, the people that, and I think this is a true blessing and talks about the Aina a lot, is that if you were multi-generational on Maui, you've got family so deep. And the people that got dehomed are out living with family more than any, which still it's a burden. You know, it's hard when your in-laws live with you. Oh my God, that's scary. No,
even more than in-laws. I mean, just the whole pressure on this whole system here. So it's been how long since this fire? A while.
Yeah.
And they keep celebrating. They have 320 houses cleared, 800 lots cleared, and they don't clear the whole lot.
And they have one building permit.
And they're still sticking the ash in Oluwalo. I thought we were told that it was going to be moving to a piece of land next to the Central Maui landfill. Yeah. That's what people decided, and they haven't been able to secure that land, and they still are delivering.
One housing permit. 1 week after Hurricane Iniki, we had over, 640 building permits issued?
Well, you know, I mean...
Yeah.
I agree with you. We can spot the problem.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it? And maybe
this is where
doesn't mean me or you.
No, and I mean
what can we?
I feel so empathetic for Josh Green, Mayor Bisson, and all of them, because it's out of their hands.
Why don't they share that with the people?
Well, they're following the guidelines that were set out by the EPA.
So why don't they share that so that people understand
and share
they're not the boogeyman? Right,
and share what it takes to get plans approved to build everything it takes along that line. There's an infrastructure here that it's kind of morphed and became this giant animal that's not controlled by city council. It's not controlled by county commissioners. It's not controlled by the mayor's office or the governor. You know,
we still haven't gotten to what are we going to do.
No, and all those things were done in good intentions.
Yeah.
They were. They wanted to protect the island and make sure that we had it sustained growth and it was done properly.
Do we do like Trump is talking, take a giant knife and cut jobs like Lincoln did?
Maybe administrators. I don't know, Jason.
And then what do those people do? See, there's like this ripple effect.
Yeah. But it seems like, and I remember listening to Steve Forbes talking about this. He said it seems like, and I listened to this speech in person. Oh gosh, 35 years ago, and he said it seems like our government agencies, if you can't do your job, you get a promotion. If you can't do that job, they promote you higher.
Because you can't get rid of you because there's a rule that says they can't get rid of you.
So they just promote you. But what you did do was really good when you started, but then they wanted to promote you. But if they promote you to something that you can't do very well, you know, maybe they should just keep the same pay and go back and do what you do good so you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. I don't know if that's the answer. Those are fighting words, you know, for most people. But we can't print money anymore. They just today, just a little while ago, the Fed decided that they were going to release the buffer that needs to be kept. So now the banks all of a sudden are getting a flood of money because we don't have to keep the asset resources on independent banks, and federally insured banks now can lend more than their assets.
Well, that's always been the case, right?
It's always been the case, but they've always to hold a solid buffer at the bottom. That's gone.
No.
They just decided that. The Fed and the banking...
they don't have to have any kind of reserve?
Zero reserve. That seems to me a dangerous and risky chance.
It was, at 10%, it was pretty risky.
Yeah, horribly risky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
your assets needed to...
That's like this 0%, I told you, zero down on a house. Just because you're earning this much now, they're going to loan you 100%.
Right.
God.
Yeah.
And now they're going to do that, banks?
Banks have to drop the floor on their asset holdings.
So they can lend more.
They can lend more, a lot more. So it's just going to be a free fall again, and it's going to... I think that will fuel inflation, because if you give people more money, they're going to spend more, and if there's not enough product out there, the prices are going up. Who loses? Everybody in the middle.
Well, and middle end going down.
No, all at the bottom, we're gone. I mean, I as you know, I lost everything to, dealing with a medical issue 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been at the bottom, and I'm living a very happy life. But my goodness, you can't go to McDonald's. The other day when Andrew and I went to Taco Bell, it was the same price as going to Dante's and having a stack of ribs. And I said, I'd rather sit at Dante's and look over the bay.
Oh, Dante's.
Dante's, yeah, and sit over the bay and have some ribs and share them because there's more than you can eat. They're best ribs that are left on island, I think, that I've had. It's for the price of a couple of meals at McDonald's or at Taco Bell. Yeah, it's broke. And I think, honestly, that's fueling the huge Trump outcry. I mean, I've been listening to these rap songs now. This is an interesting tidbit. I mentioned this to my nephew. He was calling. I don't know if he called in. We were talking a little while ago. Remember when Jesse Jackson ran for president?
Yeah.
Okay. Who did his security? Do you remember?
No.
Farrakhan.
Who?
Farrakhan. Malcolm X. Farrakhan.
Oh.
He did, big leader, Farrakhan. Who paid for that? His security? Any guess? 35 years ago, who paid for Jesse Jackson's security while running for president? Donald Trump.
Donald Trump?
Yeah. These are things that unless you really look, you'll not hear. I heard Jesse Jackson. I heard a couple of people that are getting interviewed in the last couple of days about this trial and everything, and they're going like, well, we've known him our whole life. He paid for my security when Farrakhan was taking care of all my security during when I was running for president. I was like, there's a new one. So you don't really know the man. You just know the media that's painting. They paint him whatever color they want. They can paint you that color. They can paint me that color. I was painted that color when I ran for office. When FEMA decided to take an aim at me because I wanted to adjust the Sea Mammals Act after Mount St. Helens, they were doing all kinds of painting. So
here you are now.
Yeah.
Happy?
Yeah.
Poor? Not
happy, poor, but I still have. I live just looking out towards the ocean. I look towards the ocean. It's not a great view, but it's through the trees there.
No, but we are so blessed. That's really the truth. Because I don't know where on the mainland is a place to aim.
No, I mean I've lived some beautiful places.
We keep losing people here that we keep losing. We know we're losing people.
Yeah.
But there are no jobs here that I see, that I qualify, seems to for, that'll pay enough money to be able to live a regular life and have any kind of future.
No.
And never mind that, people much younger, they're leaving here all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you I live over Paradise Gardens. It's $1,900 a month. $1,900 a month for a one bedroom.
$1,900
a month. Okay.
For a one bedroom.
Take this in. $1,900 a month in almost any of the central states will buy you a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a pool.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're thinking I want to move to the islands, I got to change my lifestyle. So, yeah. Dramatically.
What about going back to the mainland?
I would never do that. No, gosh, no.
To be able to pay a fraction of that $1,900 for a lesser place. I don't know.
Scott Rasmussen, the Rasmussen's polls. Have you ever heard of that, Scott Rasmussen? Yeah. I read one of his poll data the other day, which was just shocking to me. They ask a large swath, huge survey, 20,000 plus people. Would you cheat or lie to get a politician, to either not be elected or be elected, or to taint them? 7% of the population said, no, we wouldn't do that. 7. But if you take homeowners making over $150,000 a year, and that same question, 68% would say they would lie and steal to do whatever it takes. 68%. So my takeaway from that Rasmussen poll was that the people that are making lots of money have a different value system than the rest of us.
Well, again, I go back to what do we do about this? And that's the part I don't know.
No.
You say civil war isn't going to break out. Without calling it war, we already see it forming.
Well, we saw the streets burning. We saw Antifa. We saw people in Seattle, Portland, homes burning. We've already seen the war. It was staged and paid for and destroyed our inner cities to the tune that people weren't moving back in the inner cities.
I'm concerned that all the stuff that we talk about is not attached to any meaningful action.
Well, the hard part for us, because we're insulated on the island, is that we have most of the people that live here are either in that scope of they're in the island mode, which I absolutely love it. That's the beauty of living here. And there's a large group of people here that are they're in that 150 plus to who knows where, and they're living in a bubble. And this is what I've come across talking to family across the country. There are some that are in academia that when they put their glasses on and they look at what's going on, they're seeing something completely different than I am. And I appreciate that they see it differently. I still see people wearing masks, and I just want to tell them, I said, you're supposed to change that every 15 minutes with a 100-to-1 bleach solution, rinse it, let it dry. Otherwise, you're creating a biohazard. And I still see people wearing the same mask at Safeway. Had the same one on for years. It's dirty. It's gross.
So let's go back. I'm going way back. I loved your number about the food stamp thing.
Yeah.
47. When you talked about it in dollars.
It's like $1.
47 to 1. But whatever that statistic is, 6 billion out of 140 billion. I am concerned about what are we going to do about it.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do about it? Because like you just said, the people that are earning money, they don't want to give up their money to make the system right, because then
because the people that we're actually interacting with, if you're on the island, you're interacting with a very small agency. But this whole agency that's floating around Washington, D.C., that's huge. So it's not here. The local people are running on a meager salaries. They're not making a ton of money. They're doing the people's work. They're doing wonderful. Right. The interface is brilliant. I think they need more help. They need a lot more help. They're doing a great job. But everything above that, from Washington, way in the state level, excuse me, I think that's we've got things to do.
So
let's do some math. Okay. $1.2 billion have rolled into Maui since the fire. Well, what if we just cut a check of $1.2 million, divide it by every homeowner? How much could we have given them? We got to give them $1.5 million. Give them a check. They got $700. and just said, don't come, just send the money. Just giving a $1.7 million check to each person living here. It doesn't stop. It's huge.
Well, that one needs a little closer scrutiny.
It does need scrutiny. I did the math. I just went, here's the number. Here's how many people, divide it.
Well, but then they would have no services. Like when people say, I want my road fixed. I want this. I want that.
Right,
but I don't want to pay for it.
But you pay for everything. That's the whole thing. And it comes around. It just comes. Everybody that was screaming and yelling was like, "Oh, I got this COVID check, or I got this." I said, "You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it." I didn't get any COVID bailout, and I was looking at my partner and some of my kids, and they go, "We had to pay taxes for the first time." And I said, well, "How much COVID money did you get?"
$40,000.
I know, but
$45,000 per.
Well, I think I think most of my kids got maybe like $2,500, $3,000.
Oh well, here they were getting $863 a week for so many weeks.
Really? Oh, I wasn't in that thing.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it created homeless people that suddenly had vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And were able to get the executive camp model.
I actually read, when I went, I have a dream of buying a new car. I'm still driving the car that I drove out of the showroom floor 14 years ago.
Oh.
And I was talking, and I was looking at a new car, and he says, we're getting a lot of repos. And I go, really? What do you think drove that? He says, people came in during COVID with all this money, put a down payment down, and now all of a sudden the reality is they're really only making like a half what they were making.
Right. And
so
they're
getting all these repos. Just 2-3-year-old cars are coming in. So they don't teach in school home economics anymore. They don't teach cooking. They don't teach stewardship, and they don't teach statesmanship. Those were things that I think were some of the most important classes I had when I was in grade school and high school. Statesmanship. How to how to disagree and be agreeable.
That was an elective?
No, that was mandatory. It was part of your history and social science.
And you say that's not being taught now?
It's not, no. How to disagree without being disagreeable. Statesmanship.
No, I don't see that going on.
No, because that's all we need to do is just be able to disagree without being disagreeable. You and I agree on a lot of things. A lot of things I'm just going like, where did he come from?
Well, a lot of things we disagree on.
We still
somehow talk.
There's threads in there that we agree on. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's lots of threads we agree on, but the thing that I keep asking is the one that I don't know how to get past, which is how do we stop this flood of wrong?
I don't know, Jason. I just
don't.
You
don't know.
It's not going to. They're talking now about we're going to have a really, really hard landing, which is something that the Great Depression was.
Yeah.
And now economic. The guys that know this stuff, economists.
Right.
Yeah, the economists are saying we're going to be ready for a hard landing. Okay, the last hard landing was the Great Depression. So we have.
That's something people of in our lifetime
don't know.
Never known.
Experienced.
We see it all around the world, but it's nothing.
No, if once we start hitting 2,000 or 3,000%, when you go for a loaf of bread and it's $75, then we'll know.
Well, surely you know before that. Well, believe it or not, we have
it's time.
2 minutes and 40 seconds, which is good because we've just been rambling on about issues and problems. Next week I have Bodie on. You know Bodie B?
I don't know him personally.
Doorway into Light is a natural funeral alternative.
See, I just want to be thrown in the ocean with a rock.
Well, that can happen. We can arrange
that. No, you can arrange that.
And the price could be right.
It could be right. And put you out there with those other guys we didn't agree with that came on your show. Yeah, we know how you get rid of people.
No, this is a neutral zone, and I like bringing different perspectives on. But, I sit here and I wonder, why am I doing this? What is this doing for me? Nothing.
If you can create thought,
Yeah, well, create thought if people listen, but we already have discovered those that have aren't listening, and those that don't have, they're not listening because they're trying to figure out how to survive. So who am I talking to?
You're talking to all of us, Jason. We're all talking. But it's not about talking, it's asking the questions.
But then how do we make the change if
we get people to answer? Okay, so if you're not in charge of, you're the governor, you're the mayor, if you're not in charge of this agency, okay, who is? So you've got an administrator that you didn't hire. Back to Lincoln, you've got an administrator that's administrating this department you didn't hire, that's executing laws that the people didn't vote for, the planning laws for Maui. Let's bring this back local.
Well, but these codes were created.
Yeah, they were created to stop the blast of growth. But right now, we need just to replace the growth that was there.
We have 45 seconds, so we're going to have to bring you back again. Hope you don't mind.
Oh, I love coming back, Jason.
I'm going to ask you to make a list of solutions for next time.
Solutions are fun.
Anyway, Scott, you've been a fun guest and a good guest. And I hope that everyone listening realizes that if you have any solutions, we want to hear about them. You can sit in this hot seat.
Oh,
in fact, I got a call from someone who's been in the mayor's office a couple of times for solutions on the west side. We only have 13 seconds, so I guess that's going to be it. My goodness. Thank you, Scott, for being here.
Aloha.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. Blessings. Aloha.